Welcome back to the week of wrestling, everybody. I'm your host, Hern Chambliss. I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Payne. How's it going, man?
I'm doing very well, actually. It's been a very laid back day for me, so it's kind of a good way to get me in a good mood to talk wrestling.
Hell yeah. And tonight we're doing something different. We're not talking about wrestling news or any drama or backstage politics or anything like that. We're just going to talk about wrestling. We're talking about the best WrestleMania matches, our top 10 list. So this is not, a definitive list. This is our personal favorite and what we consider the best WrestleMania matches of all time because WrestleMania is coming up very, very soon. I believe April 3rd and 4th. So I am super excited to get into this. Ryan, thoughts on this episode and what it could mean? Because I really want to do maybe worst or most disappointing next week and just kind of round out this whole kind of trilogy that we're doing.
Well, I do gotta say that one thing, yeah, to reiterate that everything that Hunter said, yeah, this is our personal preference. This is not more of what we think overall, honestly. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
probably some discussions where we can say, oh, that match wasn't as good as this one. Well, hey, guys, it's just our personal choices, what we thought were fantastic. Some may have matched the hype, some may have felt, maybe some of your favorites were like, oh. Okay, I
I
was
get what
mainly
you're
going
saying.
to say maybe some of your favorites could make the list, but maybe from our perspective, they didn't match the hype, or they were just kind of they fell in the background of other matches.
And I will say, me personally, and you can point this out if you want to, there are some matches on here that should have been on here, but due to controversy reasons and personal reasons, personal biases, I could not put them on there. So, example, Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, for example, because of the Brock Lesnar situation that is still ongoing. So, I personally couldn't put any Brock Lesnar matches on this list. I know you had
And
one as well.
obviously the triple threat at WrestleMania 20 between Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Benoit can't put that
Mhm.
on this list, or pretty much, or even the triple threat between Angle, Benoit, and Jericho from WrestleMania 2000 could not put that on
Mhm.
my list.
So, again, that's just personal reasons. So, let's get into how this is going to work. We each have our top 10 list from 10 to 1. We're going to go down it, bring up the match, bring up the mania, and then talk a little bit about why we put this in the position we did, and just kind of talk about the matches in general. So I'll start with this one if you don't mind.
Go
For
for it.
my number 10 is not really a match, but I love it for the overall storytelling. That's the Firefly Funhouse match from WrestleMania 36. Talk about a character assassination and in-depth look at not only the John Cena character but the John Cena man as well, with great Easter eggs like his relationship with Nikki Bella that brought up
Oh,
his supposed heel turn in 2012 with the NWO stuff.
yep.
Very, very, entertaining, but the overall story of like kind of battling in this kind of nether world where you kind of battling with your inner demons. I
Yeah.
think Bray Wyatt did that very, very well, where he was good in the ring, but his psychology and his storytelling was top notch. And I think it really, really shows here in the Firefly Funhouse. So for how unique and how special and how kind of cinematic it was, this has got to be on my list. I couldn't put it, any further down the list because it's not really a match, but for an overall experience, I put it at number 10.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of it's not on my list because, well, not mainly because it's not fantastic, but I had a feeling that it was going to make your list. So I picked another sort of cinematic match for my number 10. But honestly, I do agree with what you said. That is a great match. I mean, beyond then, there was because at the first time with Bray Wyatt's new character, especially what he was doing, it was really hard to tell whenever they pit him against somebody if it was going to be a success or a sink or swim.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, I think this was after, yeah, this was it, yeah, because when the pandemic came in, it was a bit of a long. This was like after he had lost the belt to Goldberg, or at least after the Hell in a Cell match. So it was at a point where Bray Wyatt was in a bit of not sink or swim, but almost nearly a creative sabotage And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying it was intentional. It's just the timing of the way the Fiend was, like the way they did a great job building him up with the Firefly Funhouse. Then they easily pushed him too quickly to the title, and then this happened where first thing, he loses to Seth in Hell in a Cell. He wins the title. Not much is done about his reign, although he did have at least some good matches against Daniel Bryan at the time and The Miz. And then
Mm-hmm.
came with Goldberg, where they took that off of him just to build up a Goldberg versus Reigns match, which one thing I will say that the pandemic did not come to fruition. But beyond that, the Firefly Funhouse is fantastic. It's a good way for Wyatt and John Cena has said in interviews, both of them to get to use their creativity to put together a fun
Mm-hmm.
and entertaining match.
Yeah, so I was watching John Cena's interview he did with Chris Van Fleet, and he said that he was racking his brain because originally it was supposed to be just a regular, like probably like a hardcore match or something like that, but
Yeah.
the pandemic kind of screwed that up. So Cena really got to open up his creative freedom in this one, where with him doing movies and stuff, he really gets the idea of like how to tell a great narrative story because he is around directors, he is around producers, he is around actors who understand the craft. I think
Mm-hmm.
with Cena being as good of an actor as he was able to bring out that kind of confusion, the kind of comedic timing as well. I love the ruthless aggression moment where he tries to keep punching Bray, but he can't do it. He just
And
keeps
Bray
saying
keeps
ruthless
ducking out the way,
aggression.
just like boom, boom. Like,
It,
like even
there's
poking
so
fun at
many
the
great
moment
moments.
itself to where it shouldn't have worked.
Yeah, like him and then being able to use props from like the WWE props department and things like that. It was really an interesting way to take, kind of a bad situation where you have no crowds and really give us a really fantastic kind of story like cinematic match going forward.
Well, agree.
All right, you're number 10.
Well, as I said, my number 10 is also a cinematic match, and that's actually The Undertaker versus AJ Styles.
The
I this
Boneyard.
Yeah, the Boneyard match. I picked that one because it was very interesting with this cinematic match to where at first they were teasing an Undertaker versus AJ Styles before the pandemic hit. They were building it up. It looked like it was going to be the classic, okay, dead man versus AJ at Mania. But during in between that time when the pandemic hit and they had that empty arena, Undertaker decided to do something different with the character. And as he has said, he wanted to make an amalgamation of the different versions of himself, the
Mhm.
American Badass and the Big Evil and the Dead Man, which were, I'm not sure he says it's his most successful portrayals, but more of he just says the ones that were easier to do, especially given the whole in the point of the cinematic matches. And it was clear, like after the last, I mean, WWE wanted to do the whole thing where they retired Undertaker at 33, but that did not go over well with the fans. And afterwards, after the whole instance where he did that squash match with Cena, don't think there had been a lot of anticipation for Undertaker to come back to the ring. So when this one happened, I'm glad it was finally like this is a good send off for the Undertaker, but also it's a great way for AJ to really also engage with the Undertaker, be the heel that's required for the match, especially in the build up where he pretty much takes shots at the Undertaker's family, his wife, and so
Mhm.
brings extra anger. And even then, that Boneyard match felt so good. It felt like a combination of a backyard fight with the Undertaker using a bit of his tricks and trade as the Dead Man. And I loved how we still have that meme up to this day of AJ Styles on a tractor, Undertaker behind him from all that smoke.
Yes, it's so good. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna finish off by going that even the last ending to where when he buries AJ Styles, you still see a hand outside the dirt. And it was good to write AJ Styles off of television for a while. Not just like
Yeah.
really sell like the brutality of this boneyard match.
Yeah, so it seems like you and I kind of went with the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to the cinematic matches. I went with the one that was more of the story driven kind of like character assassination. You went with more of the kind of fun, American Badass kind of brawl match, which is completely fair. That is a fun match. I love there is I don't know who said it, but someone was like, Undertaker killed Gallows and Anderson so bad they ended up leaving and going to different promotions.
Oh yeah, for the TNA thing. Yeah, when they were in Impact for a while, and honestly, that kind of did well for them because they even got to be very creative. They got to do some creative juices. I can't remember that thing. We'll talk about Gallows and Anderson another time. But even then, it was fantastic. It was a fun joke.
Yeah, so this match was completely fun. I personally like the American Badass character. I think it's really different than what we've seen from Taker previously when he started doing it back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Um, so this was a great way to kind of send him off by like having all three, as you said, all three of the big Undertaker characters kind of going off at the exact same time. I know watching the Last Ride documentary, I know Taker was supposed to retire at 33, but because of his performance, that kind of ate at him and he needed something to get his confidence back. And this was a great way to keep it in a controlled environment where
Yep.
you can do cuts, you can do, camera angles, you can make him look really, really good. And it's a way to send off a legend without having to kind of tarnish his WrestleMania legacy even
Yes.
more.
Yeah, and I understand Undertaker, especially later on, especially after 33. He had that horrendous match against Goldberg at Crown Jewel.
Mm-hmm.
Undertaker was definitely someone who wanted to end his career on a high note to where he felt it was satisfactory. Because
Mm-hmm.
let's be honest, as much as I do like seeing a legend from wrestling pop up every now and then, my big issue I've been seeing, and WWE has been the biggest abuser of this, is how they are used. And with Undertaker, at least he, just like earlier on this year earlier on this month at Revolution, at least with Undertaker and Sting, both men got to at least end things on a good note to where the fans felt satisfied. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
And
the
that's
fans honestly would be satisfied if Undertaker was undefeated for like if he kept his streak. But this is like the second best, I would say.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that like Sting and Taker are like is like the dream match everyone wanted to see. But it's cool that they both got to end their careers on their terms.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a really cool symbolism that like never fought each other, but they both got to end their careers on their platform, on their terms with their decisions,
Yeah.
which is cool.
I mean,
All right, let's.
ironically, Sting gets to end on an undefeated streak, though. Not like not shots at the Undertaker, but just the irony. People want the fan base want Undertaker to retire with his undefeated streak at Mania, but for us as fans, Sting is the one who gets to end and retire on an undefeated streak.
And again, I love Taker, but I'm pretty sure Sting has a better record, undefeated record than Taker did.
Well,
He's
of
like
course,
30-0.
some people will go, "Oh, it's not." Some people are gonna say, "Oh, but he was in tag team. It's not a singles match." Sting had been very
Fair.
clear that he's not. He did not come back to wrestling singles. That's why I like the fact he was doing teams, trios, and 8-man matches. And also, you got to see many other wrestlers go up against Sting without having to carry him throughout the match. They got to work with him.
Yeah.
Some of them end up getting to be the ones who gets pinned by him or through the insane stunts, like having Sting get the bodies, do a crossbody on them, either from the fans, from the stage, or even from a ladder. So honestly, for me, I
Yeah.
mean,
That was a joke, by the way.
yeah.
I was just fucking around with everybody. Please don't come for us.
Well, for them, they're gonna be like, oh, they're not popular. They're not popular, so we will just leave them alone. They'll leave us to obscurity. I'm like, good, go bother somebody
Please.
else.
Please. All right. Let's move on to our number 9 choice. Ryan, you want to kick off with this one?
Okay, my number 9. This one was a bit difficult for me, so I went with one from the classic era. Some people are gonna want to say, why is it not higher on your list? Well, it's not higher for me because I only seen clips of this match, and also when I've watched WWE documentaries, this has been brought up a few times, and that is uh, Macho King Randy Savage versus the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 7.
Ooh, I don't have that one on my list. Nice one.
Yeah. Well, this one I mentioned because I at the time before that I was able to buy the WWE Network, or at least when I was watching WWE every now and then online on the website, they'd have at least every now and then one of their free little like DVD commentaries available. One
Hmm.
of them was talking about Macho Man's career, and they were able to show at least the last 15 minutes of his match against Ultimate Warrior, which led to and they talked about the story build up to it, to where after Macho Man turned heel, he had he of course he lost the championship, but then turned things around. He unfortunately he got rid of Miss Elizabeth as his valet, got the sensational Sherry, became the Macho King, became pretty much an antithesis of what the fans loved about him. So then when this thing built up between him and Warrior as a rivalry, to where at 7, it's either Macho Man beats Warrior or Macho Man retires. And the way that match goes, like Macho King does everything in his power to put down the Ultimate Warrior. And I do love, you do see the heck how Savage is able to physically, even when the camera's not on, you physically see him going crazy, trying to go like, why can I not keep this man down? You see Sherry
Hmm.
this like almost in some ways losing her voice. Also, the added bonus of seeing Miss Elizabeth in the crowd watching this match. Macho Man going through every dirty trick in the book to beat Warrior, but Warrior would not stay down, to where Warrior finishes him off with the Gorilla Press Slam and the Body Slam. And it's kind of funny how the whole thing ends. I thought as a teenager at the time, as a heel watching this, Macho King was going to do the heel thing, attack him, and then walk out. But no, he
Hmm.
shakes his hand. He's a little dejected. Then the Sherry turns on him, which leads to that great moment of Elizabeth running from the crowd, audience hearing that pop once they do see her running to the ring, throwing off Sherry, and
Hmm.
that great reunion with her and Macho Man. As that was for Vince. That was his at the time planned idea of having Macho Man retire from wrestling and be a
Hmm.
commentator. I mean, it didn't stick long, but it's still a great moment. Like it's only lower on my list because I never watched the entire match, and I know some people are going to go, "Why didn't you ever go back to it?" Well, I'm sorry. There's a huge library at the time. Before I got the WWE Network, I was focusing on learning everything about NXT, and I had no motivation to go back and see this because
Hmm.
everyone kept talking, because it was always talked about on so many pundits, so many dirt sheets, so many wrestling YouTube channels. So I had no real further like uh I wasn't motivated to go rewatch this from start to
Yeah.
finish.
So I didn't. Give me 1 second.
Go for it. Yeah. I only got like a small can of seltzer water, so I'm taking small sips.
Gotta stay hydrated. Um, so I did not have this match on my list, mostly because this is gonna get me, crucified online. I was never a fan of Ultimate Warrior's in ring ability. I think him no selling is fine when it comes in big moments, but when you take fucking 8 elbow drops in a row and just pop up, it just like it does nothing to me. Like that was Ultimate Warrior's stick for a long time, was he would take a finisher and just get up, and I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
care. Like the match itself was okay. I think everything surrounding it is amazing. Like the "What a Man and What a Woman" call by Vince was great. Um, but just this match to me will always be the stuff that happens outside of the ring. The Miss Elizabeth thing, the turn from Sherry, the Macho and Elizabeth reuniting, that it doesn't really do in the ring for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. The match does feel like a bit of a basic match, though. But
Mhm.
it's from. But like I said, it's only from those last 15 minutes I saw. It was mainly just like a simple brawling match. But as I mentioned, it's Macho King's physicality he puts into it. Yes, Warrior unfortunately just really doesn't do much. I mean, there's only maybe a few good matches of Warrior I would recommend, and 2 of them are at WrestleMania, which is his WrestleMania 6 match against Hogan and his WrestleMania 7 match against the Macho King. And I think
Mhm.
one match is, I can't remember if it was a Raw or if it was a pay per view match, but I'll just have to look at my list. But still, I do pick that for a mixture of the story and the whole Macho King fighting to maintain his career.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. All right, so I want everyone to remember My next one is still on the list. It's still a great match, but the placement is where some people may not agree with me.
Mm-hmm.
My number 9 is from WrestleMania 13, the submission match, Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Can we call a punt on that one?
Yeah.
It's much higher on my list, actually.
All right, then let's move on to number 8. We'll stay with mine then.
Yeah.
My number 8 is Mania 21, Randy Orton versus The Undertaker.
I do have a match from 21, but it's not that one.
I know what match it is. Then it's a one or two matches. So
For me,
yes, my
there's
number
actually
8.
5 matches from 21 I would actually put on my list.
Wow.
Randy Orton and Undertaker is maybe the fifth one I would pick. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
sixth, depending on like the how it goes in. But keep going. This is your list.
So I have this at number 8 because this was the first time that they really introduced the idea of the Undertaker streak. So you have this idea of Taker, who is a legend, Orton is the legend killer. It just makes sense. They introduced the streak to it, so you had that added bonus of if Orton can be the one to beat Undertaker's streak, how big would that be? And it wasn't at the point where like the streak was like huge, where like the streak was more, you know, worth more than a title shot at WrestleMania. It was just starting to grow. So the near falls in this match means so much more when you go back and watch it, because like the counter that Orton does where Taker has him up in the choke slam and counters it into an RKO, I thought that was it. A great near fall. I think the idea of Orton being this chicken shit heel who is kind of trying to, you know, counter everything that Taker does. Taker goes for a choke slam, he counters it with an RKO.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Taker goes for a tombstone, he's able to reverse it out. And it's not until, you know, Taker beats down Orton so much that he's able to finally get the one tombstone to finally finish it off. I think it's a really great, idea of like the predator and the prey, where Taker is always trying to get his big moves off, and Orton always has a return. Hell, he has a return a reversal for the old school that I've never seen at that point, just yanking him down into a power slam. Like there was so many stuff that Orton showed that he was able to counteract the big moves that Taker has done, which showed that Orton actually is a student of the game very early in his career.
That honestly it is, and it's kind of funny with that match at 21 because it actually it set the precedent for Undertaker for wrestlers wanting to challenge Undertaker at
Mm-hmm.
WrestleMania. Because beyond then, every time Undertaker was just having a match at WrestleMania, it was never really acknowledged. Honestly, it was just more of Undertaker is one of the top guys there, so guess what? You're gonna fight him at WrestleMania. Because earlier on, I think with this, at least in his earlier career, it wasn't that big a deal. I think it wasn't until he started keeping count was maybe at WrestleMania 18 or no, that was the one he had
17. 17.
17. Was it the one he had with
Because that,
Flair?
yeah, because
Yes.
after that one, he started doing the
Yeah, he was doing that. Yeah, 18. We don't think about. Oh no. It's 19. That match he had with Nick, that was supposed to be a tag match with Nathan
18
Jones.
was the one with Triple H. That was a really good one.
Yeah, I'm thinking of 19, the one that was supposed to be a tag
With
match.
A Train and Big Show.
Yeah, at the time with Nathan Jones, and then it's like, nope, he was not ready, so it was a handicap. And then of course 20 was just more of a return of the dead man. But yeah, 21, that is when the precedents start. And Randy Orton really did establish himself really as a star because he had that sabotaged face turn, that sabotage championship run. Literally, he was kind of floundering on the card until they decided to put him against the Undertaker. And yeah, it not only was I impressed. I mean, it's clearly management Vince loved it because
Mm-hmm.
they ended up having Undertaker and Orton having themselves a rivalry. At least when during the first ever brand splits when Randy Orton was on SmackDown.
Dude, that rivalry had so many funny moments, like the Ortons inside the casket.
Yeah, like
That was
it's
amazing.
Like honestly, it is clear how the whole thing was shot. Like it wasn't done to where you'd see both where they're both looking at each other. It's literally like, oh, here's the camera, and there's both of them lying there. And then I love the Survivor Series when Undertaker does return, and it's still a great moment in Survivor Series. Randy sells it like he literally is like, "No, I killed you. You're back. You're back. Oh no, no,
Or
no!"
Orton on the shoulders of everybody and then telling everyone to get me the fuck down so I can run was hilarious.
But then him on the ropes like it can't be true, and yeah, that great of the casket top just pushing over Undertaker just coming back. I mean, he just stayed in front of it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I will say one thing
So,
about Orton's career. I may have not liked how he was overused in the late 2000s and early 2010s, but
mm-hmm.
for his early career, he really was like I can see why he was considered as one of the top, why he was built to be a top star.
I think Orton might be in contention for greatest of all time. When you think about, like, people call Cena the greatest of all time, and money wise, yes, but Orton is still here. Orton is still wrestling. He's still putting on. Hell, that RKO he did on KSI on SmackDown was hilarious.
Yeah. It was
So like,
hilarious. It was hilarious, especially that one, and then of course that on SmackDown that assisted RKO from Kevin Owens to Theory. I mean, Theory couldn't
mm-hmm.
sell the way he did the stunner, but that was still a little fun.
So like Orton is still doing it, and he's still willing to put over young guys, and he's been doing that since God, the early 2010s. Like, don't forget, he put over Seth Rollins huge, even in a loss.
Yeah. I mean, not to put over Orton there. Orton knows at some point where he can't always be the top guy on the card.
Mm-hmm.
It was always just like the rivalries he developed, though. Like, there was never a push and pull with some rivalries he had.
Yeah. All right. So I believe we move on to your number 8,
Yeah,
correct?
my number 8. My number 8, I'm picking mainly this was from a look back at this one was kind of looking back at the moment and realizing, oh, it's actually more important when it came with establishing a new star, but not also trying to trample over an already certified star in WWF or WWE. And that's the WrestleMania 19 match, Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho.
Ooh, not on my list. That's a very good one.
I picked this one mainly. It's one of those few times where they do the wrestler who says they favor against a wrestler they idolized, and they did it
Mm-hmm.
very well because both men in that match they were faces going in. So this was more of a match where Jericho wanted to not only face his idol but to establish like himself, like where he's at on the card. And Michaels, I mean, it's him at WrestleMania, so he was always like Mr. WrestleMania. He's going in there, he's going to put on a great match. This was at the time, I think. Oh no, this was like 19. That was like their precedent before they started doing more open arena matches, like they did later on with 31.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I remember watching that match. Was a big fan of Jericho, at least in WWF. Because I'll be honest, I did not like him in WCW because he was so good as a heel. I did like him in WWF though, and seeing him really put on a hard, putting them playing together this match. First, it was like technical, then it was kind of like shows of respect. Then it was like two of these managers like fighting just to win. It was going back and forth between the two of them. Not a lot though, but I did like the story moments where you see Jericho doing his best to keep up, like to really not keep up, but also to stay on the same level that Michaels was performing. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, when Michaels does win, I love that ending to where they embrace each other. Like, oh, it's a good show of sportsmanship. But nope, it was the beginning of a Jericho heel turn as he low blows Michaels, and that image of Michaels just leaning into him, and then Jericho just like throwing him aside. And then reason why it's on my list is because I loved in some of the interviews later on, Michaels and Jericho have said that both of them, when it came for them to talk about this match together, Michael said he had an idea of the beginning. Jericho said he had an idea of the end, or it was vice versa. And they just in a way,
Yep.
they pretty much just
Called
improvised
it. Called
the
the rest of the
middle.
match.
Yeah, they pretty much
Yeah.
just improvised the middle of it. And honestly, watching it the first time, I didn't get that sense. But then but then having that knowledge and rewatching it, it makes it so much better knowing that both these men understood the chemistry that they had, and the how their minds were kind of aligning with each other.
Mhm.
And it's something so good that I like. Even then, Jericho in his earlier, I mean, even early when Jericho in AEW, he tried redoing that with Guevara though, like at Double or Nothing last year, or with even then it plays into that little. It's one of those rare instances where when you have like, because one thing wrestling loves doing when it comes with heel turns is either the heel is betraying a mentor, or the heel is betraying someone they idolize,
Mhm.
or it's two best friends and one of them turns their back on each other. This is one of those situations where the heel, where the like where meeting your heroes trope actually works, or the
Mhm.
don't meet your heroes, it's one of those situations where it works.
Yeah, and what's great is they would actually bring this back in their stellar feud in 2008, where
Oh,
literally the idea of don't meet your heroes because Michaels cheated to win a match in front
of Jericho.
of Jericho, and it's like, the don't meet your hero thing was a connection all the way back at Mania 19, which is a really good kind of story thread to
Oh,
have. Can you hear me?
you paused for a second, but you're
Okay.
back.
The only reason it didn't make my list is only because again we have 10 slots, and I think there are
Agreed. Yeah.
few like the match is really great though, but there are more matches on here that I wanted to give more representation to
Hmm.
over ones that get talked about all the time. Like there are some on here that get, that are talked about all the time, but there are some that I wanted to add in that were kind of newer or kind of, people talk about, but it's not like iconic yet. That I think
Exactly. Yeah, I
will
agree.
be more iconic.
I have
But I
three
I
match. I
love this
have
match
four
though.
matches on my list to where they're going to be like, you put that on your top 10, So
Same with
put it
me.
in there.
But I really love this match. I think the idea of calling the match in or calling spots in the match was very unique because it doesn't get used often. You usually have a script,
It's rare.
especially in WWE, you have a script. So for them to be like, "Hey, we trust you guys. Go out there, kill it." And this was right around Michaels' return. Like he was just returning. He was just
Yes.
getting his feet wet. And to put him up against someone like Jericho who can go and it is in my top 5 wrestlers of all time because of the way he can reinvent himself. Sorry, the idea of passing the torch is really, really well done in this storyline, especially when you think about the fact that these guys were friends at the beginning. They were both faces, and then Michaels gets turned on, like he turned on his friend in
Yeah.
Marty Jannetty. So it's kind of a big kind of full circle moment. So very very great match, very good selection.
It is. I mean, this would be a little higher, but honestly, I mean, it would maybe be somewhere in the middle of my list. But there are some matches in there, at least now recently, where I just go, you know what? These deserve a better, these deserve recognition over this one. Although this doesn't get a lot of recognition, apparently.
Which is weird. But again, I want to go back through and rewatch all these matches. Some I have rewatched recently. Some I just remember because they stand out often.
Mhm.
So let's move on to number 7, which is kind of a newer one, new-ish one. WrestleMania 37, Night 1 main event. Bianca Belair taking on Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Not only do you have, an historic moment, two African American women main eventing WrestleMania for a title, but the match itself was not only brutal, it was technical. You had a great story. Sasha Banks almost dying with a suicide dive, which she always does. The ending with Bianca using her hair as a whip and it vibrates and like out from the entire fucking arena.
And
And
left
it
a
was
nasty mark on her
the
body.
the welts, man, and it crowned Bianca Belair as pretty much the face of the women's division right now. This match was very, very good and very historic, so that's why it's on my list.
It's number 7.
Yeah, number 7.
Yeah, well, ironically, this one's a little higher for me. It's actually my number 6.
Ooh, okay, perfect. So we can talk
Yeah,
about
because
it.
I was definitely looking to include some women's matches in my WrestleMania, and this one is without a doubt a great women's match. I mean, after all, this is WrestleMania 37. This is like them finally coming out of the pandemic, and
Mm-hmm.
Bianca Belair truly built very well, and Sasha and Bailey had a great little run during the Thunderdome, like really like holding the women's division down with their
The
little
role models.
yeah, the role models, their own version of the their own version of the 2-man power trip. Like, sure, Sasha never legit got the Raw Women's Championship
Mm-hmm.
from Asuka. You know, they always did those cheat to wins. But I did love the fact that Bailey had SmackDown, they had the tag titles, and she always helped Sasha. And then the turn came on Sasha where she took the SmackDown title. And I did love with Bianca, like, yes, of course, obviously, she wasn't really getting some of the deserved screen time during the Thunderdome era, but it
Mm-hmm.
is clear that after when she was from number 3 to all the way to the Women's Royal Rumble, I'm going, yes, they are. Two things in my mind. They were definitely going to push her, but were they going to put that belt on her at WrestleMania? But then,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, watching that match, seeing great athleticism out of both Sasha or Mercedes and Bianca, and the fact that that's one of the best matches from that night of WrestleMania. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what other people. I mean, yeah, it's personal, okay, guys. It's a personal preference. So yes, some of you will say, "Oh, that match wasn't top tier," but it's one of the better, more streamlined wrestling matches of night
Mm-hmm.
one. No, and then going over with Bianca winning the championship, her becoming the face of the division, and holding that belt and then getting a second chance to hold another championship for another opportunity at WrestleMania. Ugh, you could honestly. I mean, she holding the Raw Women's Championship from 38 to 39, holding one of the longest women's reigns, one of the longest
Mm-hmm.
reigns a woman has with the world with that championship, or with or at least any championship in the women's division is fantastic. That just shows, and I loved how the company was willing to go. That's where we're going to not only put our trigger, we're going to put our cards behind her from that match.
Yeah, and one thing I really love was at the very beginning of the match when the bell rung and you look on both of their faces and they're kind of tearing up at each other because they know that they're about to fucking make history. It's really really great, man.
Yeah, it is. I loved it. One of my favorite
All right.
takeaways. I mean, I'd hate it. I did not like them doing the whole 2-part thing when they went back to live audiences. But this
Mhm.
was a great This was like one of those matches where I go, okay, I'll take the night 1, night 2 WrestleManias.
I love the night one, night two manias. I do not need a 9 hour mania again. Please no.
Ugh. I mean, I get it because they have a big roster, but to me,
Mm.
I'm like, if you're gonna do a maybe a 3, 4, maybe a 4 and a 4.5 hour pay per view, you at least would not want to overstack it where it's exhausting. You know?
I get that, but two nights also gives us opportunities like this. It gives us more opportunities for people to have a WrestleMania main event, which I appreciate.
Yes,
And it kind of makes it to where now what I think they should do personally, and they're not going to do it because money wise, but
obviously.
you have two mania or you have two rumble match winners, the men and the women's, have the women main event night one and the winner of the men's main event night two.
That
That's how it
should
should be.
be. That's honestly how it should be. Or if
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to, depending on how big the star is, you can maybe have the women main event night 2 really
Mm-hmm.
end your night 1 and 2 WrestleMania on the fact that you're willing to put all your cards in the women's division. They wanted to do that for 35, but personally to me, they overstacked that card so much.
The problem is that was a 7.5 hour show, and everybody did not care because of the introduction of Charlotte Flair into that match. If it was just Ronda versus Becky,
Becky.
I think people would have been more intrigued in that match.
Well, that was the funny thing. It looked like that was the plan, but it was clear. But it felt clear to everybody around Elimination Chamber they were trying to do to Becky what they did with well, like they were trying to force Charlotte into a situation that honestly did not need her invested at all. They
Mhm.
it was just more of like, oh, we're going to make history. Okay, if there's going to be a triple threat match, I'm fine with that. But the problem was They overstacked the 35 card, and then they decided to add more stakes into that match to bring in the women's, the have Charlotte win the SmackDown Women's Championship. So you're bringing in two titles into a main event on an already 15 plus match card. To where by the time you want these women to put on a classic, you've already burned out your entire audience. And I do love that image of Becky holding both belts, giving us Becky two belts. Shame they didn't make it last longer. But the fact that at that time, Becky, one of their biggest stars, coming out from two botched attempts to turn her heel and to force everyone into a Charlotte versus Ronda, which, let's be honest, nobody wanted that. Even though we got that Survivor Series, it really wasn't seen as, no one really wanted that. They wanted something fresh and new. And surprisingly, apparently, I'm seeing toxic elements of the fandom turn on Becky. Where, trust me,
That
it's
makes no sense.
I've seen some stupid comments saying, "Oh, she's the new Charlotte." She's not.
Daniel Bryan was right. Fickle fan.
Exactly. Fickleness. I truly do see the fickleness on the fans. But I'm not going to. If there are some people who have some good, legit reasons why they don't think Becky should fight for the title at 40. But the thing is that if fans are really looking at the story that was built last year in 2023, Becky was certainly preoccupied. She had not touched a singles match from WrestleMania 39 all the way. A singles championship match. I should clarify. From 39 all the way to 40, the only singles championship she held was the NXT title, and she devoted her time on both Raw and NXT to really make that not elevate the title, but give women who are overlooked opportunities at the title. And I'll be honest, it got me more invested in the women's division in NXT.
I'll say this. Becky did way more for the NXT title than Charlotte ever did.
Apparently, that's a fact that people are overlooking because they're trying to make this whole hashtag anyone but Becky. No, that hashtag's not going anywhere.
I'll say this: if it wasn't for Becky, Tiffany Stratton would be kind of over, but her feud with Becky really put her on people's radar.
That's one of the weirdest things people are not paying attention to. The rise, the favoritism, or the fact that how endearing she's becoming to the crowd. If Becky happens to win at Mania, that pop she's going to get interrupting Becky, if that does not tell you that it's a future title match between the two of them, I'm sorry, guys. It's short-sightedness. But let me get off this rant and let me move on to my number 7. Number 7 is going to be WrestleMania 2000, the Hardys, Edge, and Christian versus the Dudleys. Yeah,
the triangle ladder match.
Huh? Oh yeah,
triangle ladder match.
Yeah, it was a ladder match. It wasn't official to TLC until SummerSlam, but yes,
the
ladder match at WrestleMania 2000. I picked this one purely for the fan in me that loved that enjoyment. I was a huge fan of the Hardys at the time. Well, still am, but during that time, Hardys were my number one team, so I was rooting for them like crazy going in that match. In that match, it's pretty much a symphony of chaos from start to finish. And I do love in this match, yes, we get the iconic imagery of Edge spearing Jeff Hardy off of the belt hanging in the middle of the ring. But even then, that match never felt like it was dragging to me personally. While the Hardys were fighting, the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian were fighting around each other. And they also did a good job utilizing their other additions. Like Lita got to have her moment. Rhino got to have his moments. Like Dudley got to have his moment. There was no moment to where, personally, if I rewatch this match, I would not take away anything from here. I mean, that swanton that Jeff had from the ladder, it was the table, when you do look at it, was a little too close to the ladder. So Jeff really wasn't going to get his whole body onto Bubba when he did that. And then seeing the 3D done on 3D done like multiple times on tables on a ladder was fantastic. And yes, honestly, I do believe Christian and Edge were the right people to win that match. Because it's just fantastic because it's keeping all three of these teams in circling around each other. There's never like one team has the majority wins over the other. It was a constant trade-off. While Christian and Edge, they mainly held the titles in this constant rivalry. At any moment, it was like the Hardys could win it the next time. The Dudleys could win it the next time. it was really showing like a huge emphasis on tag team wrestling.
Yeah. So this did not make my list. And not because it's not a great match, it's a fantastic match. I think I prefer TLC 1 from SummerSlam a bit more, but it also is an age thing. I wasn't around when this match came out, so I didn't know the story or anything going into it. I just saw the triangle ladder match. So it was a car crash, but I didn't know the story going into it. I have a match in here that's a car crash, but I was around to know what the story was, so that kind of gets it better in my opinion.
Yeah, to me, it's a beautiful car crash.
Oh, 100% it is. All right, are we on to number 6?
Well, my number 6 was Bianca and Sasha, so it's you for your number 6.
My number 6 is from WrestleMania 39 last year. Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the SmackDown Women's Championship.
I'll just say it, and there's no Charlotte match on my list at all.
Wow, interesting. So not even her and like Asuka or anything like that.
I did not like how it ended.
That's
And
fair.
I will say this clearly: no negativity towards to Charlotte as a wrestler or as a
Mm-hmm.
person. I like the character she portrays because, in a way, she comes off as a bit of an entitled nepo baby, which is okay. That's fine. She has the Flair name to it, so she's supposed to be arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this on my podcast I had with my friends, and I've said this on anytime I'm invited with talking wrestling. I don't like her booking because every time she's involved, it's either she's automatically in a championship match
Mm-hmm.
or she they can barely execute her as a babyface, and then she's inserted into a championship match.
Yeah, I
Like
get that.
there's no middle ground with Charlotte, unfortunately. That's my issue with her. I don't see her having a
Yeah.
big feud against somebody if a title is not involved.
It's the John Cena effect. I think
At
it's
least
kind
with
of what
Cena,
they
though,
did.
he was able to have a build to get there.
Kind of like in early Cena was and late Cena was, but there was a time between like 2007 and 2010 where he was just randomly put in title matches that really he shouldn't have been a part of.
I would say maybe sometime around 2008, like between like after 23, because to me after 23 was when he really was being overbooked at into championship
Yeah,
matches.
because at 24, he just got randomly inserted into the Triple H Randy Orton match, and that became a triple threat match with Cena involved.
Yeah, and then he was randomly inserted in 25 against Big Show and Edge. Then he and
Mm-hmm.
Batista went back and forth at 26. 27, that was The Miz. 28,
Miz.
actually 28, WrestleMania 28 to at least from 20 to 29 was the only time Cena had at least a more storyline booked year.
Mm-hmm. But back on to Charlotte versus Rhea. The
Mhm.
story was not that good. I'll admit that right now. But the match was fantastic. And I think if they would have leaned more into what I wanted them to lean into, I think the story could have been there. And the story that I got from it, which was a small part of it, was that every time Rhea and Charlotte met on a major stage for a title, Charlotte walked out the victor. This was Rhea's night to establish her dominance after a, you know, wall to wall Rumble win. She picked the person she could never beat, which was Charlotte. And going into this match, I went back and rewatched it last night. You can see the urgency that Rhea has trying to finish the match constantly with big moves and big moves. And Charlotte on the defensive in this match, having to, again, like Orton and Taker, having to find out a way to block Rhea's Riptide, whether that's going, into a DDT, which was beautiful, or using kind of her athleticism to escape Rhea's power. And that was a really great story inside the ring. And it crowned a big moment for Rhea, beating Charlotte for the first time at WrestleMania to gain a championship in front of a raucous crowd. It was great for Rhea, really put her over as a very top star. And I think that Avalanche Riptide looked fucking sick at the end. So I think, the idea of one, it puts over Ripley. Two, I love the counter wrestling. I love how kind of, very strong and very aggressive that Rhea was. It made Rhea look so strong in this match, so that's why it's number 6 on my list.
No, those are great points to bring up. And 39 is it is one of the few WrestleMania matches. 39 and 32 are one of the two Charlotte Flair matches where I will give people their flowers. It's like, no, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she does put on a great job in both of those matches. But yeah, to me, I was like, it's not that important to me because I already know who the winner is going to be, in my mind at least.
Mm-hmm.
It was, to me, it felt like, okay, this is Rhea Ripley getting that win back from losing at 36. Maybe this is finally the time to where Charlotte can be dethroned from the top of the mountain, and maybe we
Mm-hmm.
can start using her into some interesting feuds to really help build new stars and have different rivalries going on, to where I thought that was the intention of her when she became the first Raw Women's Champion. But I mean, who knows? Maybe from where currently she's still hurt, she's recovering. We'll see where she is when she comes back. But yeah, that is a great match. Like, this really is showing Rhea, like, and also the fact that her heel turn, being from last year in 38 when she was in a
Mm-hmm.
tag team Live, to now, this is Rhea going, no, I'm a different person. I am not going to stand by and wait for you to do your shit. I'm going to dominate you. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to at least put you on the back end. So that Avalanche Riptide did come by. I'm like, that's the button at the end of it. If Charlotte kicks out of it, to me, I was like, if Charlotte kicked out that Avalanche, Rhea needs to do two things: either submit her or pass her out for the referee to end the
Mm-hmm.
match. That's how I thought submission
Yeah.
needed to, if that was not the button for that match.
See, I was so close to putting Roman versus Cody on this list, and then I remember the ending, and I was like, fuck that. Going with the match that actually had the right ending for once.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to your number 5.
My number 5, this one was difficult, but I'm just going to say it. My number 5 is WrestleMania 21, Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle.
Punt.
Ooh.
Very much punt.
Okay. All right, then let's move on to you for your number 5.
My number 5, WrestleMania 3, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Macho Man Randy Savage.
This was an honorable mention, but go right ahead.
One, I love the story of this match. Macho Man just trying to end the career of Ricky Steamboat with the bell shot to the throat.
Ooh.
2, Steamboat coming back. Steamboat coming back to help Georgie Animal Steel, who was going to get the same treatment. Leading to Mania 3. In my opinion, this is the first Mania match that was a certified classic. Like, when you think of WrestleMania, like early Mania matches, you think of this match. And it really set the tone for a lot of technical and kind of speed type wrestling that we see nowadays, the work rate of like Will Ospreay and people like that who really incorporate the great speed and technical style, because when this match starts, it never finishes. It never slows. It's constant moves happening. Arm drags by Steamboat, counters by Savage. Savage trying to cheat again with the ring bell, only for George Steele to come in and help Steamboat win the match. The great roll up finish out of nowhere. Just going back and rewatching this match, you see that type of match could influence a lot of different wrestlers and wrestling styles going forward in the future.
No, it's perfectly well said, honestly. This one, it would have made my list if I had kind of like, if I had seen at least a majority, a chunk of this match, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing, at least with Macho King and Ultimate Warrior, is that I watched majority of it to understand where it was going. To me, it was kind of like bits and pieces of this match, so I couldn't really fully put it on my list, even though there's many people out there that say, no, I want this one on my list. I'm like, go ahead, put that on your list, and I will not object to it. Like I said, it's a personal preference.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to your number 5, I believe, right? Or no?
My 5 was Angle and Michaels, which you punt. So I'm
Right.
moving to my
4.
4, which is a punt from your number 9. It is Austin
Ah,
versus Bret Hart in that submission match.
number 4.
Yes.
Nice.
Well, I mean, it's high for me
Got
because not just over the whole double turn and the
mhm,
cementing of Austin into this run, but this match alone, like it was a great build-up going into it. I mean,
mhm,
just seeing Austin coming in as this no nonsense tough son of a bitch, but he's the heel at the time, so every person he's fighting up against, he's kind of representing this. He's bringing this sense of attitude and violence in the WWF, which at the time for Bret Hart of the new generation, he was not for. So, and
mhm,
also, Brett has shown moments of himself in frustration to where he's like, "You're not. I'm not being taken serious. Well, not being taken seriously, but I'm being undercut. I'm being treated like crap." And I liked how Brett he wanted to stand in front of Austin to be like in like the knight in shiny armor or the knight of virtue to be like, no, Austin, if you think you're gonna run roughshod in this company, no chance at all. And also there are some moments with Brett and Austin's rivalry that led to some good moments where Austin had that interview to where like, what's my opinion of the Hitman? Just put an S in front of it, you know.
yeah.
And then the fact that between these two, it got so the personal heat between the two of them got so big to where this submission match was a no DQ, and they brought in
Mhm,
at the time Ken Shamrock, who was one of a tough son of a bitch through UFC fighting, to be the referee because they knew this match was going to be brutal. They knew this match was not going to be fair, and I like how you
mhm,
see in this match, like Austin just trying to bust open Brett at any chance he got. Brett using underhanded tactics to get the best of Austin. Like it wasn't more of Brett was playing fair the entire time. He knew this was a no disqualification match, so he was trying to show Austin, "You're trying to get down and dirty. I can also get down and dirty, but in the end, I will beat you."
mhm,
But that moment came towards the end where Austin is just choking Brett with that
mhm,
extension, with that cable cord, and when Brett gets that chair and busts his head open, it was a great moment. It was something where like it wasn't Brett. It was a moment of desperation, but also a smart move to do because Boston wasn't going to let go. And clearly, Ken Shamrock, I mean, yeah, he's a fighter, not a ref, so he doesn't know that that's not a good thing. So I like he
mhm.
brings out that chair, and I like how you do see him in that submission. This is Austin also proving you're not going to make me tap. And the great I'll say one of the few times where Vince on commentary is actually fantastic, you know.
Yeah. So this match for me was at number 9, not because it's not a fantastic match. It's an iconic match. But overall, I don't remember a lot about the match. I remember the ending of the match, which is still iconic, but
Mm-hmm.
when I can't really think of, moments that happened inside the match. Now, that's just probably my memory is shit, but it nothing really stands out till the ending when Austin is busted open, he's in the sharpshooter, which again is an iconic shot and is one that will live on forever, hence why it's on my list. I just there are other matches on my list where they have big moments, but there's also smaller moments that I can remember inside the match.
Okay. Like I said, I don't hold that against you. This is all just nothing but personal preference between the
Mhm.
two of us. If you wanted to be objective, then I would say this would maybe be slightly lower. But still, it's a but like I said, this is subjective. So I actually like how this match to me it helps shape Austin into
Mhm.
the future leading man that he is in the company, but also at the same time it gives Brett a new needed edge for his character. So it was kind of a
Yeah.
good way where this match saved. Well, it elevated both men.
Yeah, 100% it did. All right, let's move on to number 4. My number 4 is Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26. So the streak versus the career.
Yeah, damn, that
Um,
one is also. Hold on, let me just double check to be sure. Um, oh wow, it's actually not in my top three. Huh.
wow.
I mean, it's on my list of what I was putting together of matches, but I guess it didn't get into my top three. I might take out a match in order to put that there, but Just go on. Just go.
So there are days where I put this over their Mania 25 match, just because I think the story elements and the heightened not anticipation, but the what's the word I'm looking for?
No, not escalation. Um, the build, no, not build. What?
Build. Build pretty much. Like the build of you know, the streak versus Sean's career. And the story going into it where like Michaels really wanted to avenge that loss at Mania 25. So he enters himself into the Royal Rumble. He loses it. Dude, that elimination where he's just trying to grab onto the ropes is so fucking sad. So what does he
Yeah.
do? When Taker is defending the world title in the Elimination Chamber, he cost Undertaker the match to someone he hates, Chris Jericho. That's how much Sean wants revenge for his loss at 25. So then Taker loses the world title and is like, okay, we will fight one more time, but if you lose, your career is over. That's what you have to put on the line to get another shot at my streak. So now, not only is the match for the streak, which is, at this point, super, super important, but Michael's career is
Mm-hmm.
on the line. And this is the moment where I wasn't sure as a kid what they were going to do. Is Shawn Michaels going to retire? Are they going to have Shawn in the streak? Because at this point, they could have Michaels in the streak, move on for a little while, and then retire later on. But the fact that it was in, his home state, Arizona, it was in this really fantastic 30 to 35-minute classic where
Yeah.
Michaels is trying everything. He's throwing everything at Taker to make sure he doesn't have to end his career. And it ends with a Vatic leaping tombstone pile driver for
Oof.
Taker to finally put Michaels down. Just the overall package is fantastic.
Yeah. And then the heartbreak on his face, when he realized it's over.
Mm-hmm. We don't mention Saudi Arabia, so this is Shawn Michaels' last match, in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
thoughts on this match?
Yeah. I mean, crap. I mean, I may knock something off of my top 10, maybe to squeeze this in here. Um, but it was a fantastic match. Because I remember in 25, it was all about like they did the whole like symbolism of you represent the dark, I
Mm-hmm.
represent the spotlight, the light. They went too overboard with it, and then I love how like after 25, while Michaels does go on to do good things, Undertaker, of course, he becomes champion. It wasn't until like Michaels was free from that weird angle of JBL where like, what's he going to do next? What is he going to do? And or was that before or was that during 25? I can't remember that the placement. But even then, just Michaels going
That
in,
was
yeah.
during 25.
Okay, yeah. So, but okay, so going back on this, yeah, Michaels. I think for him, it's like there was something like I love the way he's portraying, like the way he says it's eating at him because he came so close, but it was just no cigar, and he just goes to himself like, no, I need another chance. I need another one, and Undertaker was like, yeah, I got nothing to prove to you. Really shooting him down, almost treating Michaels like he was an afterthought. So when he did that moment of costing Undertaker, it was pretty much like Michaels telling Undertaker, "You did this. You did this. It could have been me and you at Mania for the title, but you did this." And then Undertaker goes, "Okay, you took my title. I'm going to take something from you." And I like the personal stakes involved for both of these men. Neither of them was going to give an inch to each other, and it really was a great combination of storyline and desperation from both men. Both wanting
Mm-hmm.
to, well, Michaels wanting to keep his career, Undertaker wanting to keep his streak. And so, yeah, that heartbreak you see at the end of it was really something like you could almost bring a tear to your eye, like watching that. No, wait, no,
Yeah.
this is 25. Isn't the? Oh my god, my brain is short circuiting here because they had a back to back on each other.
26 was the one in the
The
um
career versus streak, right?
yeah, career versus streak was 26. This is the one we're talking about where
Jesus
Michaels.
Christ! Wow! Holy crap! I think the fact is they're both like one match. They're both like a 2-part movie to me. Oh my god! I think because I'm trying to rush in my head, where can I put 25 at?
I I think you realized you messed up a little bit in your top three, and then you jumbled up 25 and 26.
Yeah, because for my top three, they're all like matches I would rewatch over and over again
Mm,
of the importance. While some will, I mean, once I say what my number three is, people are going to go, "Why would you put that in your top three?" And I will explain myself. But you know what? It doesn't matter. This is fantastic because this is one of those few matches where it got the audience truly invested to where this should have been the main event for the match. But 25. It's one of those weird times where Triple H is putting in a main event where the crowd is already exhausted.
yeah, so 25. I'm glad that that this one in 26 was the main event because they left it all out, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move on to your number three
Yeah,
or
my
number
number
four.
three. My number three. My four was Austin and
Mm,
Brett. My number three.
yep.
This is truly a personal preference of mine, and that
Mm.
is Kofi Mania.
Kofi and Brian, nice.
It is. I mainly picked this one for personal preference and personal significance.
Hmm.
Now, take away, yeah, it's Kofi. He has not been utilized a lot. From it has not. It's been rare. Like Kofi. Let's see. Outside of The Rock, I don't. There's not many African American men who have held the
Hmm.
WWE Championship. People want to say Booker T. No, they clarify it's the world title.
World
As far
title.
as my personal memory, as far as the WWE title is, from Attitude to 35, The Rock, they now mainly use his Samoan heritage. So they don't always fully, when they say The Rock,
Mm,
he's half black, he's half Samoan. So they've always used a bit of like a small cheat code over that. But Kofi Kingston, he's that moment with him that by happenstance getting involved into an opportunity to where all he simply could have did was done his job, and then they could have written him away. But
hmm.
because the fans got endeared to him from that beat the not that beat the clock, but that qualification match to get into the elimination chamber, from him fighting his ass
Hmm.
off in the elimination chamber to lose to Daniel Bryan, not getting an opportunity at Fastlane, building this great storyline to where Daniel Bryan, at his most moments as a heel, really calling Kofi Kingston a B plus player as almost
Fantastic.
taking what was said to him and saying it on to Kofi. And Kofi at the time finding a career resurgence with the New Day going in. 35 to me as a fan was very important because there's only 3 matches I gave a damn about. That was Seth versus Brock, Kofi and Bryan, and Becky. Reason why those were
Hmm.
important to me was because at the time, not at the time, but this to me, okay, Seth and Brock was important to me because Brock had a fucking chokehold on the fucking division to where nobody was given their chance in the spotlight with the title. It was either Brock shows up, holds it, and they save it for Roman and Brock. You know,
Sounds familiar now, doesn't it?
yeah. With the women's end though, I know I wanted to drop it before, but I wanted to bring it back. Becky at that time was on a new career elevation that was putting
Hmm.
her more into the spotlight to where it was constantly being hogged by Ronda and Charlotte on both different brands. While Ronda was able to at least have some good matches with some other women's wrestlers, Charlotte, on the other hand, was literally kind of like insert either she's fighting for a championship or she's not. There was no in between with her. Becky was someone who the fans rallied behind, where we're like, we are done with Vince and his constant, you don't look this part, you look better like this. Kofi, at that time, he could have been a simple tag team wrestler for the rest of his career, but this was the one moment in the sun to where Kofi has to be taking this. And the fact that Daniel Bryan was also like wanting to work with Kofi, building this great storyline of undercutting Kofi, cutting short his potential, Kofi getting that fire, and I'm talking about all that build, but the match alone, despite what you all want to say about this match, this was simply an underdog match where Kofi going in there, wanting to give his heart and everything he got, and Brian, being the heel that he is like, no, you're never going to be at my level. I'm going to beat you down and win with the championship. And of course, when those moments, especially when he started using those little kicks to the face with his character, every time
Mm-hmm.
he did that, it led to that running knee to where it ended everything. So those rare moments when Brian was teasing using those stomps to the face, Kofi was able to find a way to get out of it, bringing more life
Mm-hmm.
into the crowd, and he had the support of Big E and Xavier there in the corner, and just seeing Kofi take so much punishment from Brian, but still keep coming. It's kind of like it's Rocky and Apollo from the first film. He kept taking so much of the punishment, but he kept coming back. So when he finally hit that trouble in paradise and got that 1, 2, 3, was a great moment. I will say one of the loudest pops in that building, to where I was in a bar with wrestling fans watching that match. And you talking about how it's a 7-hour event.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a bar with fans who did not give a shit. We were there because, it was an opportunity, and I just got to see so many people reacting to that, like loving that moment. And then of course they reveal of course at the time he had the Eco
The
Championship.
eco-friendly. I love that belt.
It's a good design belt. I just hate the fact that it has that big W in it, though. But that's me. But then Kofi gets the regular WWE Championship belt. He's held it. I thought that was a new turn to where maybe this time Vince was going to look at stars who maybe give them their shot in the sun and really see if the fans can get behind them. And Kofi Mania was kind of proof that you give a wrestler that powerful story, that good writing behind it, that good motivation, and enough endearing to the fans, you can have moments, WrestleMania moments like that.
Wait, so you're telling me that good stories will get people invested? What?
At least from the crap that we've constantly been getting from WWE during that time. There was some good stuff that Triple H did in NXT, but even then, there were some.
Mm-hmm.
But Triple H was a hit and miss. Triple H was not always batting at 100, at 1,000 in NXT. He was maybe, I will say, somewhere like 0.7.
70-30.
Yeah, he was like like in a 70-30. Like some were fantastic, others were kind of
Mm.
like a bottle rocket to, you know. But beyond that aside, Kofi Mania is still something I treasure, because he not only was Kofi the first fully fledged, officially full-blooded black man to win the
Mm.
championship, but it definitely led us down the road where we got Big E holding the title, Bobby Lashley holding the title. Hopefully,
Yeah.
um, we'll see another opportunity of Bobby Lashley getting another chance at the championship, or maybe Big E returns, he gets another shot at the title. But it was something where it was that, oh, hell, we got like stars coming up from Shawn Michaels NXT with Carmelo Hayes, Trick
Yep.
Williams. I can see them as main event
Trick is going to
players.
be huge.
Yeah,
Like
I'm actually
he is hard.
amazed. I'm
He's already
amazed.
over right now.
That's the thing that shocks me. I'm amazed of how over he got. Because to me, he felt to me like he was going to be the Kevin Nash to Hayes' Michaels. But then the fact
Mm-hmm.
that even as his backup when Hayes became a face, I was seeing the people endear to him. So when he did start going off on his own, I'm like, okay, maybe he'll be on his own for a bit, go back to Hayes, and then Hayes is like, you can't last without me. But no, the fans were behind him. So when he had that moment of getting the North American title from Dom, I'm like, fuck.
And that was a great match too. That was the first Trick Williams match I ever watched, and I was like, this dude is something special. Not only does he have the size, the look, the athleticism. The dude is
Yeah,
very
I am
athletic.
impressed with his athleticism. Even in the Iron Survivor match, and then later on him
Oh.
against Dragunov, I even love the
Mm-hmm.
dynamic that he and Dragunov had. Oh my god, it is amazing. Dragunov. That's one thing I appreciate with Michaels taking over NXT. He's actually doing some good work transitioning some of the overabundance of characters that Vince did when he did NXT,
Mm-hmm.
and actually finding a good union with the wrestlers from the UK division, bringing them into NXT, and then mixing the new crowd together, the new talent together. I will say.
Yeah.
But
So
that is my 3.
sadly, this match did not make my list.
I understand.
It's a really good match, but it's a very fantastic story. Um, I think the story outshines the match just a little bit, but that's not a bad thing. Like,
Yeah.
you want a really good story, and the match was really good. Like, these are two wrestlers that Kofi and Brian are just really great wrestlers. So of course you're gonna have a really great match. Um, one of my favorite story elements is the way that they use the New Day as a whole. Like how like Woods and Biggie were really pushing for this Kofi match to the point where they went through a gauntlet match to earn Kofi this opportunity. And one of
Yes.
my favorite moments, the Usos come out, they look at each other, this history between
Yes.
them and the New
They
Day, and they're like, you know what?
they give them their
Good
props.
luck.
Get out the damn ring. Oh.
Yeah, we forfeit. And it's like right there is great because they have this history with each other, but they can see how much this means to Kofi and to the New Day, and they've built this respect. And they're like, all right, Oos, we forfeit. And they just like they leave the ring. It's perfect.
Like I mentioned, like one thing I'm saying, Kofi could have been this like trailblazer for future talent, especially seeing
Mm-hmm.
what's happening with Jey Uso right now. That he's being built on this main event platitude. That I could see him maybe potentially not just challenging. I mean, yeah, he challenged against Roman, but I'm actually saying
Mm-hmm.
actually see Jey challenge for a championship and win it. You know.
Oh, 100%. Yes. It also shows that, as you said, it used to be that if you were a tag team guy, very few tag team guys really made it into main event status. Now,
Yes.
anything's possible. You have to look at everybody. Like this random tag guy, if given the a really good story, could be a fucking main eventer, and you never know what's gonna happen.
Not just a good story, but if he endears to the fans,
Mm-hmm.
if you see moments of brilliance in his matches, like I'll take a tag team, the Street Profits. So many people for the longest time were saying Montez Ford could be seen booked as the solo star, but then I see matches that Dawkins has, and I
Mm-hmm.
can go both of these men interchangeably. I can see challenge for a singles title. Hell, one of them I could see maybe be the ones that dethrone Gunther for his Intercontinental title if they are done right. And the way Gunther has had against his opponents, he has made all of his opponents feel like they're worthy competitors, except for Dom,
Mm-hmm.
which is perfect because Dom is a little shit who needs to be treated like a little shit in their matches.
Dude, everyone does not give Dawkins his flowers, and I will not stand for this. Go back to WrestleMania 39, that tag team all-star match.
Oh,
He fucking trained Braun Strowman. He bull rushed Braun Strowman. That dude has power and athleticism.
yeah,
And I've always said this, and me and my brother agree. If they ever want to break up the Street Profits and do the tag team turn on each other thing, I know it's an old trope,
yeah,
but
it is.
Dawkins turning heel on Ford and Dawkins being pushed as this monster heel who has size, strength, charisma, and really book him like a monster heel, that could fucking, you know, send both of them to the moon.
Yeah, but they're just so likable that even when they did try to make them heels with Lashley, the crowd wasn't having it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, though. If you turn Dawkins heel on Montez, the fans will turn on Dawkins, and that's what you want. You want him to have the Rock type heat, where like he is so good on the mic, he's so good in the ring that people are conflicted on what they should do.
Yeah. But I've spent all my time on this platform for my 3. So let us move on to your number 3. What is your number 3?
All right, so you had your car crash match, which was the Triangle Ladder match.
Mm-hmm.
I have my car crash, which is Edge and Mick Foley from Mania 22.
Okay. Okay. I mean, obviously that's not on my list because we're in the last 2 spots. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but even then, I guess for me, I don't know. That match really never like grabbed me. But let me hear
Mm-hmm.
you. Okay, this is yours one.
I I am a huge fan of, as John Moxley calls it, garbage wrestling. I love the hardcore deathmatch style because these type of matches give you a girdle reaction that most matches don't. Which is why I love horror movies as well, is that it's a safe environment where I can feel a little bit of danger. When I watch a hardcore match or death match wrestling, sometimes it goes over, too far and I can't really watch it. But when it's done right, there's something kind of dangerous about it where you're like, these two guys hate each other so much that they're putting their own bodies through hell to beat the other one. And that's what Mick Foley and Edge did. This whole story started because Edge thought that Mick Foley was trying to screw him out of the WWE title against John Cena. And he brought up the fact that Mick Foley, through his whole career, has never had a WrestleMania moment. You can go through his entire catalog at the time, never had that one match that people could latch onto at WrestleMania that really made him a superstar, that people will remember. And this was that match. And Edge and Foley both had a moment. And I'm talking about not only did the flaming table spot, which was insane, because Mick Foley, and Edge has said this, Mick Foley had not only a t-shirt, but he had a jacket and everything. Edge had nothing. He had pants and boots and no shirt, and he went for it. And I appreciate that. But the psychology in this hardcore match of Mick Foley knowing that Edge was going to go for the spear and having the barbed wire around his stomach so that when Edge hits it, boom, he starts bleeding. And Mick Foley really goes into the attack there. Not only, like, Lita has a moment. She starts bleeding. She takes the fucking Socko wrapped in barbed wire, which is fantastic. Then you have the fire spot. So it's a really good, like, hardcore match when you think of the storyline reason, and you think of the fact that Mick Foley has never had a Mania moment in his entire career. This is the one I can look back on and be like, that was a Mick Foley Mania classic.
Those were a lot of great points, honestly. Fantastic points. Yeah, I mean, I know the flaming table spot is what everyone associates with this match, but I'll admit, I mean, when I was, of course, looking to build to this was not one of my excited matches because I think at the time I was not a fan. Like, I really was not. Edge's little heel run really didn't grip me.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think maybe it wasn't until that time between Mania and One Night Stand to where I was starting to warm up a little bit to Edge as a heel. But even then, I'm still a guy who likes the baby faces, and if they're
Mm-hmm.
done right against the right heel, they can have a great story. And Edge was given lots of great moments as a heel to solidify himself. It was just to me, it was just like one of those matches to where, okay, it's just a simple hardcore match, this is Mick Foley gonna go psycho against Edge, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. But when you bring up that moment where Mick was using psychology on Edge,
Mm-hmm.
that did make a lot more sense, honestly, especially some moments. Like, yeah, Lita lit the flaming table, but even then, it could be like the fact that the table was brought out for a
Mm-hmm.
moment. Mick Foley using anything at his disposal to take out Edge.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, Edge matching the same brutality, going, "Oh, you want to destroy my body? Well, I'm still going to prove to you that I can be the hardcore legend that you are."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something about this match that, like, me personally, as I said, I really love when a hardcore match is done really well. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like hardcore matches just to have hardcore matches. I feel like you need to save those for a rivalry that has a storyline and that is really ramping its way up. And I think this is what it did. Not only that, but after this, you had the great run that Mick had going kind of heel with Edge teaming up against.
Yeah, taking out a
Uh,
lot of the EC, like the hardcore legends, that led to the One
yeah,
Night Stand match.
dude, the one night stand match. I think it was one night stand 2006. It was Edge and Mick Foley versus Terry Funk and Tommy Dreamer. That was an insane hardcore match.
It really
And it really started here because Mick saw how far Edge was willing to go. And in my opinion, this match right here made Edge into the main eventer that he would become. Because right after this, he would win the main, or he would cash in. Or no, that was
No,
the cash in
well,
was
he beat
before.
he was able to beat Rob Van Dam for that WWE title in that triple threat match.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he would have the run with the title that would then lead to his feud with Cena. So
Mm-hmm.
this match really shows that the company got behind Edge because of the fact that he was able to stand in there with a legend like Mick Foley.
All right.
All right, so let's get to your number 2.
Well, my number 2 is the WrestleMania 18 match between The Rock and Hogan.
Okay, not on my list.
I completely understand that. My last 2 picks, they're definitely truly personal preferences. I picked this one. This was at the time for me as a wrestling fan where I was still a fan of Hogan,
Mm,
and the whole thing with him and the NWO thing. I'm going, okay. I left. I checked out of WCW sometime around like early 90, like late 98, the
mm,
99. So I was not fully aware that at the time he was separated from the NWO and he was doing his own thing with the red and yellow. I thought he was still at the NWO. So when I
mm.
saw him come back into the WWF with Hall and Nash, I go, okay, this was interesting. Let's see where Vince goes with this. And I liked how his immediate plan was going to. Well, of course, now we know the immediate plan was meant to be Austin and Hogan,
Mm-hmm.
but that didn't go through. But I did like how the story built with. It started off as a bit of a disrespect. You know, Hogan felt disrespected with The Rock because he's coming up to The Rock, calling him a kid, and then like that great exchange between the two of them. Like at first, it's like, "Can I just get your autograph? My kid loves you." Then turns away, gives Rock an insult. The Rock says, "Don't fucking disrespect." You know, he comes back and does a promo on him, which leads to the NWO jumping The Rock, and then Hogan crushing that semi into an ambulance. And then I
I
liked how,
forgot about that.
yeah, yeah, he says before he drives the truck, "I'm about to lay the smackdown on his crippled ass." And of course, when The Rock comes back, he challenges Hogan, and of course is in Toronto, which of course we all thought. Of course, most of us here in the States thought Rock is going to be the hero going in, but man, watching that pay per view,
Bizarro world, man.
yeah, well, not. I mean, clearly, one thing is sure that the fans of Canada have proven is that when they love somebody, they are 100% behind them. They don't
Mm-hmm.
give a shit if they're face or heel. It's more of a pure thing from the Canadian fans, not how toxic it is here with mostly
Yeah.
American fans. Like they're just like, oh, they're cool, so we're not gonna boo against them. It's like, no, no, no. If you truly love if they've done, I mean, I'll say if you truly like a wrestler, then you wouldn't boo against them because you think they're because it's I'm not gonna get preachy on this. I'm just gonna get back to the yeah, it truly was Bizarre World. I love that standoff but face off between the two of them where they are soaking in this moment. There's
Mm-hmm.
a few Rock chants, but then it's a lot of Hogan chants. And just in that entire match, they're trying, and I like how it is called on the fly because you do see every time The Rock wants to strike Hogan, most of the crowd boos. When Hogan's striking, the crowd cheers. So I loved
Mm-hmm.
how on the fly The Rock's like, okay, you're gonna be immortal, Hogan. I'm gonna go back to the Rock I was, corporate Rock.
Yeah.
And I liked how these two are going back and forth on each other. So even when The Rock does win the match, the crowd doesn't really hate it though. They still pop for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like this one rare opportunity between these two titans of different generations going one on one against each other and delivering a fantastic show for the audience.
Yeah, great points you brought up. And I know a lot of people have this on their list. Me personally, going back and watching the match, especially if you, because I've tried this, watching it with muted
Mm-hmm.
without volume, so you can't hear the crowd reaction. The match is not that good. It's a moment match. I get that. Like you're in the moment, and that's fine. Like you can have moment matches, and they're good for what they do. I was never a fan of Hogan's in ring work, so to me, The Rock pretty much carried that match, and it's not a bad match at all. It's definitely a one that is more spectacle over work rate, which is good. But me personally, and my final two, I had to go with ones that not only had good stories and built in, you know, moments, but the match delivered
Yeah.
tenfold.
Yeah, look, I do agree with you. Like, if you really do look at it, yeah, it without the crowd there, it feels like a regular first time match.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like I said, these are going to be personal preference matches to where these matches stay with me. And yeah, there are moments where there's matches that I like the story that goes into it, and there are some matches where I'm going, you know what, the match itself lasts with me. The story may have been weak, the story may have been terrible, but the match overlong itself was incredible. This was
Mm-hmm.
one of those situations to where I felt the story and the match was like, you know what, I'm behind this 100%. Yes, and rewatching the match is, a little terrible. The match is terrible. Well, it is
Yeah,
mainly The Rock carrying him. And if this had been Austin versus Hogan, there would have been so many expectations in the match that I don't think both men would have been able to deliver. So to me, The Rock was the right person for this match.
I will say the thing that could have turned the match to be better if it was Austin is that Austin is a brawler. Rock
Yeah,
is more of a entertainer. So
yeah,
the
you
fact
showed
that
me.
Austin and Hogan didn't really have a lot of moves in their later careers. But if you could just do a match where Austin is doing these promos and then the match is all about can Austin beat down Hogan enough to where he can't fire up, then Hogan has to fire up and rebound the shots that Austin gave to him. You could have a
Hmm.
really good kind of a brawl type match.
Well, I definitely understand. Like I honestly, I think it comes down to it's just more how can they pull this off.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so let's move on to number two. My number two is Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 25.
Wait,
Um,
didn't you say
again,
25 earlier on?
no, I said 26 at number four.
Okay, yeah,
we pretty much talked about both of them in that one, but the story in this one I think is incredible. The idea of Shawn Michaels sees the Lord of Darkness, Undertaker, and what does he counteract with? The light.
yeah,
The with Shawn, finding God and finding religion. This is a very basic good versus evil matchup, and it works because you have these two established stars. Anybody else, you wouldn't have this, this religion, good versus evil thing wouldn't work, but because you have the story of Shawn going from alcoholism to finding religion, and you've got the Undertaker, who is this Lord of Darkness. It Something about that balances out, and it works so well. I love the entrances in this match. Undertaker coming from below, like rising up, and Shawn going from the skies to the bottom. I think it's a really cool symbolism. I love a few weeks prior, Shawn comes out in a white robe like Undertaker and the
yeah,
white hat, and he just smiles at the camera. The match itself is fantastic.
yeah. It's like
Like
it's Michael's
30
dipping into a
minutes.
little bit of that heelish antics he had.
Mm-hmm. The match itself was fantastic. It would have been even better if Taker hit that actual dive, but I think that's what kind of gave it the realism it kind of needed, was that they kind of did fuck up and they used that to their advantage.
Yeah,
But like Michael's doing everything he can to beat the streak, and Taker trying to fight from behind, to then he's finally able to hit the tombstone for the victory. Overall, man, if you haven't watched this match, go watch it. It's an absolute classic, and it's my number two.
it is a great match. Honestly, I want to say more about it. I mean, look, it's not like I don't remember the match. It's just kind of like, unfortunately, I remember 26 more because that went into it. But yeah, out of that missed dive from the botch of the cameraman, I'm saying in air quotes, this is a good match, a good one match because this was a match 25. I did say earlier was one that should have been a main event match. It took so much steam that it kind of gassed out the crowd. So when Triple H and Randy Orton was as the main event, no one was interested in that, and that was for a reason, because no matter what, when there's a match if there is a match that the audience is behind, to be honest, it doesn't matter what your main event is. The audience will put all of their passion and energy into that one match, and this was that one match at 25 with Undertaker and Michaels.
Yeah, definitely. It should have been the main event, 100%. I mean, there's really nothing else we can talk about this match, because we did talk about it a little bit in the 26 match as well.
Yes, when I confused
It
both of them, so
it just, like, you have to have both these matches, in my opinion, when you're talking about best Mania matches, just because they both, Michaels and Undertaker are, especially Taker in the prime of like 21 to 29,
yeah.
Taker were putting on classics with each other.
Like it really was like two, like honestly, I won't say at the prime, but these were two men like in their twilight of their career, to where they
Mm-hmm.
have to well, not have to, but they are still, they're on a way, they're trying to prove something, with the way they
Yep.
wrestle. The fact that Undertaker was able to find a second run under the dead man gimmick, and the fact that so many young or even well established wrestlers wanted to go against the dead man, it was
Mm-hmm.
always like, honestly, there was nothing that the Undertaker could have done during that time, from when he came back in 2004 as the Dead Man to all the way into WrestleMania 30, to where he honestly had an immediate spot on the card.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, are you're number two, correct?
No, my number one.
Oh, okay. So first, do you
We're on
have
our number
any
ones
honorable
now.
mentions?
Well, honorable mentions, clearly both the Taker and Michaels matches, 25, 26. Wait, didn't we ever talk about Angle and Michaels? Because that was on my list.
Context clues.
Oh, son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. My bad. Okay. Okay. I'm like, you meant. Okay, my bad. Okay, I also had on my list an honorable mention. It's not a great match. It's an okay triple threat match, but then also the story behind it. In hindsight, you look at it, it's honestly it's disgusting. But I was not against the WrestleMania 22 triple threat with Angle, Rey Mysterio, and Randy Orton. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it is, in a way, it's kind of despicable how the storyline that went into it. But I'm still okay. But I can still take the match because it's Ray getting the opportunity to be crowned champion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also have, of course, the 35 match with Becky, Ronda,
Mm-hmm.
and Charlotte. Despite how I feel the build going into that, it was still an important moment for me as a fan, because longest time. I mean, because it was around that time when Ronda came in, they were really trying to go all in with women in the focus of the card.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like really putting, like every time Ronda was there, they wanted to make everything important. It was the same. It was like the following year. I mean, the previous year they had the first ever all women's pay per view, which they have not brought back up again. And even during that
Please
time,
bring that back. That was awesome.
yes, I mean, with so many of the pay per views you have, 1 month out of the year can be for the women, especially with now where the card is. You can do a mixture
Mm-hmm.
of female wrestlers from Raw, SmackDown, and NXT to make this card. And also at the time, NXT was building up a strong women's division of new stars to bring in.
Mm-hmm.
That it was around that time of 35 is where like Becky could have been, just like Kofi, the trailblazer to finally open the doors for new talent, and for new opportunities for people that for female wrestlers at the spotlight. Unfortunately, didn't happen. At least, hopefully now it will under Triple H, but it didn't happen. Let's see. I also had wait, where's that? Oh, Michaels versus Razor Ramon, the first ever ladder match at WrestleMania 10.
Yeah.
Bret Hart versus Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10. Um, this match, I had the Money in the Bank ladder match from 21 and 25.
Okay. Okay. Fair. Yeah. That one's
There's,
fair.
yeah, there's plenty more I could put on my list, but otherwise, it's kind of like I could literally just go like, oh, this could have been a top 20, but
Oh yeah. Um.
Oh no,
So
no, I mean 24, not 25.
24.
24. Yes.
Um, should we just go over my honorable mentions and then you can say your number
Go for
one?
it. Yeah, we'll go to your honorable mentions and then we'll hit our number ones.
All right, so I have Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle at Mania 20.
Oh, Eddie and Mysterio from 21. That was on my
Eddie
honorable mention.
Mysterio from 21. Becky and Bianca from 38.
Great match as well. Yeah.
Rollins and Orton from 31. A really good passing of the torch, which then led to the heist of the century. Um, I love this match, but I hate kind of the ending. Roman Reigns, Edge, and Bryan from 37.
The
The
stack
match
of
itself was really, really cool. I have Charlotte and Asuka, and then I have The Miz, Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins from 34. The triple threat for the IC title.
yes. I personally felt that Balor should have been crowned the champion for that match.
Me too.
Ugh. That was another
All right.
WrestleMania where I was at a bar watching with fans.
Oh, and one more. Sorry, Hogan and Savage from WrestleMania 5.
That's a good one. That is a good choice.
All right. So now let's move on to your number one.
Should we go to your number one since I kind of just fucked up on it?
We can. Yeah, my number one is Kurt Angle for the Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21.
Yeah. I'm not saying to build more anticipation for my number one, but I clearly did just mess up. And I'm like, it's kind of like, in a way, like wrestling. We already know where the ending is.
Yeah. So, this was your what, number
5.
8? Oh, number 5. Okay.
It wasn't that
Yeah,
low. It wasn't that low.
this is my number one. Especially going back and rewatching it today. One, the storyline was amazing. You have Kurt Angle literally trying to outdo everything Shawn Michaels did, including and the fantastic sexy Kurt, which
Yeah.
will always be a favorite of mine. And then he puts Sherry into the the ankle lock, which Kurt Angle was insane. But the match itself was a great mixture of brawling, technical wrestling and high flying spots, which was very, very good. The match
Oh,
starts
shit.
with Shawn Michaels slapping the fuck out of Kurt Angle and Kurt immediately going into wrestling mode. And you see that these two kind of bouncing back and forth to the point where commentary brings up, Kurt Angle should be the one controlling the pace when it comes to groundwork, but Michaels is hanging in there with him. And then Michaels starts brawling, and then he starts doing high flying moves. The moonsault through the table was
Ooh.
insane. The angle slam on the outside where Michaels' back hits the ring post was brutal. And then the ending is fantastic. Kurt has the ankle lock in, and Shawn tries to roll out. Kurt, rolls through
She
and is
hooks it. Yeah.
hooks in it tighter. He does it again. He rolls through it again, has it tighter, and then the moment he drops the grapevine, and you see the pain in Michael. This is the one time that Shawn's overacting really works. You see the pain of Michael's having to decide: do I tap out or do I shorten my career and try to break out of this? But once Angle has that grapevine, there's no escaping, and he just keeps twisting and twisting, and Michaels finally has to tap.
Yeah.
One of the best WrestleMania matches, in my opinion.
And it's definitely one of those matches where you can do a main event caliber match without a title on the line. And I do love that it was mainly Kurt Angle insisting for this match because he felt cheated at the Royal Rumble. And I love the package building into where in one of those lines, Kurt Angle goes that this to believe that you are one of the best performers in this business is something I can't stand for, and it is
Yes.
amazing. It does, yeah. You get those, like you mentioned, those comedy moments where he's trying to make fun or belittle Michael's career, and Michael,
He beats Marty Jannetty in
oh my
record
god,
time.
it was so ridiculous. Like, yeah, he's doing constant comedy work, but he's playing the heel to where he's kind of like he's a pit, not pity, and he's like envious, but also despicable. He's the despicable heel
Yes.
for those comedy moments. And Michaels, I love how throughout the entire most of the build, even though he does stand up for Gennady, most of the time he's just kind of taking those licks where he's going, "Hey man, once we're in the ring at Mania, you're gonna face the Heartbreak Kid, Mr. WrestleMania."
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it is amazing. If I mean you think, yeah, like two opposing styles where Shawn Michaels he gets moments where Shawn Michaels is wrestling. It's moments of brilliance to where he can dictate the flow. Well, Angle,
Mm-hmm.
a huge technical wrestler who can dominate and pretty much have you work towards his advantage. And yeah, like you brought up, Mike. Every time Angles thinks he's going to dictate the pace, Michaels is able to bring it back with ferocity. And the moment, like the first time Michaels like gets out of the angle slam or he kicks out of an angle slam, you see Kurt going, "You gotta be fucking kidding me."
He's like, what do I have to do to end this guy?
Well, it wasn't that. It was just more a pure stun because I think the angle slam has been kind of like a mostly protected finisher.
Mm-hmm.
And Michaels is one of the few guys to truly kick out of it. So it brings that incredible veracity out of him to where Kurt is getting more punishable. And I think, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Michaels did break out. He did kick out of that. He did break out of the ankle lock the first time. And that the first
Yeah,
time, Kurt was pretty much going, I'm just going to end here. He kind of like he thinks it's over. Michaels pulls a fast one on him. So yeah, when he does
it
that,
was super early into the match when he attempted that, and he got a roll up and a near 3 count off of that.
yeah,
But the one thing, one small story detail that this I love that they brought this up. Kurt says that in a promo that this rivalry, this hatred for Michael started way before the Rumble. It started in 1996 when Kurt won the Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck, and everybody was talking about this guy, Shawn Michaels, who, came down through the rafters. And he said, the fact that you were called the best professional wrestler made me sick.
yeah,
And I was like, this storyline was so fantastic. And this is the match I was talking about where you have a great build and an even better match that really, you know, mixes well into a great package. That's why it's my number one.
yeah. I mean, I can't. I mean, nothing much more I can say about it. Where I
Mm-hmm.
just will not stop agreeing with you.
All right. What's your number one?
Okay, my number one, once again, is another personal preference. The
Mm-hmm.
the last bit of the ending, some will say it's controversial. Well, not controversial, but more very questionable. My number one is the WrestleMania 17 main event between The Rock and Austin.
Ooh, okay. I love that choice.
Yeah, I know. I mean, currently, the more WrestleManias we get, and the more type of technical great matches and story-driven matches are, this one
Mm-hmm.
kind of falls further down in the purview. But you rewatch that match is not just another beautiful marriage of build, storytelling, and it's a beautiful build of storytelling, history, and a rivalry that really cemented the Attitude Era.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Austin wins the 2001 Royal Rumble. Rock becomes champion, and it's once again these two men whose best moments of their careers are defined through each other. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that the Attitude Era was solidified with Austin and Rock, and that great package, that great video package with My Way or the
From
Highway.
My Way.
Yes, from Limp Bizkit playing. It is without a doubt still a great video package I rewatch. And it is like it builds so well on how their top moments is Rock becoming champion or the Stone Cold beer bath or the Rock getting the best of Austin. Like this was the moment where these two were finally going to come to a head WrestleMania, well again at WrestleMania and
Mm-hmm.
determine who is the top guy. And going into this match, even if this does play off like a regular Rock Austin match, this one has a lot of extra weight here because this is Austin at a point where he is starting to slow down in his career. So he
Mm-hmm.
has to find a way to pick up in the fight. So so when the moment comes down when oh my god, it's been a while. I should have rewatched this match. But there is one moment when Austin really starts turning up like the beat downs. Like when he did the
Mm-hmm.
one, I think I remember in the matches when he did the muddle stomp. It was always like he's not hitting them hard enough. He's doing like enough kicks to gas them out. But in this match, I think maybe a couple minutes in near the end, he starts going harder and harder on
Mhm.
doing those kicking mud stomps. And the way The Rock sold it felt like he was getting like he was literally getting a foot caved into his chest. And despite some of the overselling of the stunner that The Rock did, Austin always did a good job of just not, once he stuns him, immediately head straight for the pin. And every time The Rock kept kicking out, kept bringing more and more frustration out of him.
Mhm.
So when that moment came when Vince shows up with the chair and I'm seeing Austin just hit him, as a kid, I'm confused. Doesn't he hate Vince? And then, of
Yep.
course, you have that ending where he shakes hands and Jim Ross is selling it to where Austin made a deal with the damn devil.
Devil. I love it.
But whenever I watched that match when I had the WWE Network, I'm looking at it and going, the crowd did not give a shit. They were so fully behind Austin, they didn't care if he
Mhm.
was slightly aligned with Vince. It was like he wins, and the way he wins is just by beating Rock over and over
To
and
be
over.
fair, they are in Texas, so
Well, yeah, yes. I know they are in Texas. It is a home crowd advantage. It was just like, but it was just kind of funny. That's one of the few gripes about it, is that it did not go over the
mhm.
way they thought was going to go over. Like it should, in a way, it was kind of like the pre-telling of WrestleMania 18 in a way, to where they thought this was going to go one way. Surprise, it didn't go that way.
Mhm.
It's but I still love it because of the storyline build, the amazing rivalry between Rock and Austin, and just overall how this did feel like a conclusion to the Attitude Era.
Yeah, so I get all of those points, man, and it's a very fitting number one. Me personally, I would put their match at 19 over the one at 17 only because I don't like the ending. I'm one of the people who don't like Austin turning heel. I get the reason why, and there are hints in the match, but him aligning with Vince, the guy that he's been feuding with this whole time,
Mm-hmm.
never really set right with me. I'd much rather them do it to where Austin starts getting so frustrated in the match, and instead of Vince giving him the chair, he just takes the chair and starts beating the fuck out of the Rock
Yeah,
himself.
yeah, I would have liked that as well.
But man, the spectacle is there, and the in-ring work with these two is always great. They have great chemistry. Um, I do like how fucking unhinged Steve Austin is at the end of this match, where he's just beating the fuck out of the Rock with the chair, and
Yeah,
Rock
he
is just
does not
vibrating.
give a shit.
He goes in with that chair, man, and I don't like the heel turn or the heel Austin that followed. I think he was too
Yeah,
goofy.
look, I'll be honest. I mean, well, at first, originally, at least in that first month or so,
Mhm.
it looked like they were trying to make a more tough edge Stone Cold, especially with him aligned with Triple H. But once Triple
Yeah.
H got hurt, they were going more of that goofier angle with Austin, which I thought it did sour him to where when they did the invasion angle, even when they did bring back that tough son of a bitch Austin, in a way, it was kind of too little, too late.
Yeah.
I mean, you
But
still get
man,
that great pop from the crowd of him stunning every WCW and ECW
the
guy.
real Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Um, I love this list because you and me have some of the similar matches, but
Mhm.
we have a lot of differences, and our number ones are completely different, which I appreciate. You're going with a good match with a big spectacle. I'm going with a work rate match with, you know, more of a personal story, which I like that our number ones are completely different.
Yeah. Like one thing I do like when I talk with other wrestling fans, either you, my friends James and Brenton, is that we come across wrestling from different perspectives. Yes,
Mhm.
I most of the time do agree that with wrestling as it presented on screen, we should have a mixture of great storytelling and entertainment. But also, I want good sports. I want good matches. I want more of the sports
Mhm.
ends of it, to where we get a wrestler who's great on the mic, but it sucks in the ring. I'm sorry, that's something where I can't believe this guy's gonna be a champion. I mean, that's why it's hard to find that wrestler that has a marriage of the two of them. And
Mhm.
even then, when I come across with New Japan and AEW and Ring of Honor, where they are more sports oriented, towards the wrestling side of it, to where promos can only get you so far unless you're not able to get the crowd behind you while wrestling, which something I still don't get why most fans don't understand. But that's a whole other can of worms. But then I also enjoy the WWE side of it, where it is like you get a lot of the story and the spectacle before the
Mm-hmm.
matches themselves. And then of course there's those who like the garbage wrestling. And then of course there are those that want to find more that's a marriage between the two of them, like I do see on TNA sometimes. And then if you just want to go straight into the dumpster fire, you got the backyard wrestling. But like
Oh God.
yeah, but then like with garbage wrestling, like with GCW, you can still have those
Mhm.
matches where it's a mixture of technical wrestling, and then every now and then you get those spots of them throwing glass, of them hitting each other with glass tubes.
A perfect example of that to me is Matt Cardona versus Nick Gage.
Oh,
When 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 Matt Cardona won the GCW title, I think he did really great stuff with GCW because he was able to take that WWE style and understanding of telling a story, and they melded it really well with the deathmatch style of GCW.
yeah, that's one thing I appreciate. That's one thing I do appreciate every now and
Mm-hmm.
then when you do see two wrestlers presenting two different brands, or they want to represent two different attitudes of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
If they can work it together, then it's amazing. Like what I see with Moxley, he's becoming more hardcore striker into his
Mm-hmm.
wrestling matches. Where before on then earlier on AEW, he was doing a mixture of both of wrestling and striking. But now with his death jujitsu gimmick going on, he is more of, I'm just gonna beat the shit out of you, and then you gotta step
Yeah,
up.
yeah, which I appreciate. But there are our top 10 lists. If you guys need a recap, let's go over these real quick. My number 10, Firefly Funhouse. Number 9, Hart and Stone Cold. Number 8, Randy Orton versus The Undertaker. 7, Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. 6, Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley. 5, Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage. 4, Shawn Michaels and Undertaker 2 from Mania 26. 3, Mick Foley versus Edge at Mania 22. 2, Michaels and Taker 1 from Mania 25. And number 1, Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21.
Yeah. And of course, for my recap, number 10 was the Boneyard match from WrestleMania 36. I had Jericho and Shawn Michaels. I had also, holy oh, it's not on my phone. Damn it. Oh, my notes app is gone. Shit. Oh, no, wait. I had Macho King versus Ricky Steamboat, Bianca versus Sasha. I had, fucking hell.
Number
Everything.
5 was Angle and Michaels, which was my
Yeah,
number
but my
1.
number 6 was not my number 6. Jesus Christ. It is, wow. It's nothing else to
Your 6
list
was
here. Jesus.
Bianca and Sasha, wasn't it?
Oh no, yeah, yeah.
My,
My 6 is Bianca and Sasha. My
mm-hmm.
bad. No, my 7 was the triple ladder match. 7 was triple ladder match. 6 was Bianca and Sasha. 5 was Michaels and Angle. My number 4
Mm-hmm.
was Austin and Brett. My number 3, Kofi versus Daniel Bryan, Kofi Mania. Number 2, Rock and Hogan, and number 1, Rock and Austin. You know what?
There we go.
I think on my notes app, I need to make sure I put numbers on them this time, because I had nothing but 20 matches on my notes.
Yeah, I had to make sure I numbered mine as well because I would have got so confused.
Ugh.
All
I
right,
think
so
because
next,
me, I was self-editing these. I was self-editing these in my
mm-hmm.
head.
Yeah. So next week I want to do the most disappointing and worst Mania matches, to kind of balance out the good and the bad. So let's see if we can get together and get our top 10 most disappointing or worst WrestleMania matches for next week.
Well, that's gonna be something.
Ryan, before we end, where can people find you?
Well, if if you do want to see more of me doing lists, either top 10 or top 5, or my best and worst, go check out my wrestling podcast that's available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Radio Public. It is called the Wrestling. Well, not the. It's called Wrestling Ramblings and Rages Podcast under the Shimo Media Network. Saying a mouthful here. I co-host it with my friends James Shimo, and occasionally with Brenton McPherson, who comes in as a co-collaborator. We have so far on our list best of 2023, worst of 2023. We did a pencil me in, brother, where my friend James did a fancy booking of how Cody Rhodes would end the story. But now that we're building up to WrestleMania, it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. Check it out. See if his version would have been more preferable to the one we're getting right now. We also did James and I also did our predictions of who would be the breakout stars in 2024 for both WWE and AEW. Then we did our top 10 best and worst Royal Rumble winners. We did a top 10 on kayfabe pro wrestling couples and real life pro wrestling couples for during Valentine's Day.
Kayfabe couples sounds so fun.
I know. I mean, our lists are available on Spotify if you guys immediately want to go check them out. It's kind of fun that just like with me and you, James and I kind of found some commonalities.
Mm-hmm.
But right now in March, we're kind of recording our own version of a March Madness bracket of the best and worst gimmicks. So trust me, James put myself and Brenton through the ringer with this one. So go ahead.
Number one, Eugene.
No, he did it in a random generator. So Brett and I literally had to choose between the two of us between what was advancing in our own round 1 and round 2 brackets. So
that sounds fun.
That episode will be out soon, but trust me, it is insane.
All right, man. I can't wait to listen, guys. Go check that out. If you guys did enjoy this podcast, please hit the like button, subscribe to the Nerd Entertainment Network down below. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys soon. Have a good night. Peace.